Well, that's not very helpful. All right, so we're doing a live show here. Get my guest. Wait 1 minute. I gotta get this started here. What's his email address? All right, I sent the invite. We'll see how this goes. Not real happy with the camera position. It's kind of odd here. Well, I had this interview said Saturday, and I got involved with 5 other projects, and you know how that goes. So I got a notification. Hey, we're still doing this. I'm like, oh yeah, like right now. The day's almost over. So so let's see. Got a new message. Checking sent mail. Work.
Go call. Okay, yeah. So anybody who's new here, the paper is yours. Feel free to write on the paper, scribble on the paper, rip crap out of the paper. That's fine. Take it with you. The book, I am not in the 3-ring binder business, so please leave the binder. So paper, you.
Okay, so that was a live stream that failed or ended, and then something else booted up. That was not part of my show. All right, so we are live streaming. I'm waiting on a guest here. Check my own meeting. So yeah, the link is good. See that? I just put in test. You see that at all? I don't know if you can. What does he mean by that? 200 views? Am I supposed to send it to my own show? Maybe. Yeah, communication's paramount. Oh, dang it. It's pretty hard to do this, I'm telling you. It's making it too hard. I'm sending you a link. Where are you at? Where you at, man? Let's see. I guess I'm gonna put it right. I just put the link right in the dang comment section, which is not common. If I email it to you, that's pretty much standard procedure. That's all right. Just gotta go find out. Oh, new message. Oh my goodness. I don't want to hear yes. I want to see you on the lobby so I can invite you into the Zoom. This doesn't. So what I got to do is go and find the invite link, and then paste it in the YouTube comment section, apparently. Which is fine. There you go. That doesn't work. I don't know it will. It's like a Rubik's Cube. You just got to keep working on it. And if you know the configuration, all the better. But if not, you can keep working on it until you figure it out. Which is fine because for whatever reason, I don't know why this format's like this, but I don't get a lot of views with this webcam. Which is another thing. I could probably stream via iPad. Maybe that's what I'll do. I don't have a lot of energy for this, so I need to figure this out. A lot of these smart people are kind of rarefied in other areas, so it's to be expected. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I sent it to him in 3 ways. Directly via Zoom email link, secondary through YouTube comments, thrice by replying to his yes email. From there, I don't know what to do. Do. These people. Let's see. Apple has got a lot of issues with their interface on this. All right, so this is a backup on. I'm doing 2 streams now, primary and a backup. I'm probably gonna close the live one here on my computer because I'm not getting anybody showing up. Oh wait, there's somebody. There's one person. Now they're gone. Okay. So it works. It somewhat works. For whatever reason, when you live stream on a an iPad or a Droid, Android, it works. But when you try to live stream from a webcam, it doesn't work too well. I don't know what it must be the format or something. Maybe most people watch live streams on their phones or something. So I'll give them a minute or two, but I'm not going to spend all night on something this easy. These ads are just trash. Okay, so I remember my phone number. So I sent my phone number. We'll see how that works. If that'll be the trick. So yeah, I want to show you all something. So I'm live streaming here. I'm live streaming on the tablet here, and look, I got 13 views or watchers. But if you can see, there's no viewers on the webcam per se. So there's something weird about that. Like if you're gonna live stream, you want to live stream from like an iPad or obviously a Droid system or something, because otherwise it's a no go. But well, thanks for joining me. I'm waiting for Brian D. Anderson. Said he would call in. He said he would call in and on Zoom, and I'm waiting on him to show up. He's an AI researcher I met on by Serendipity, but Serendipity is known to be kind of a cantankerous algorithm. See, So I'm waiting for him to show up. I put a test through and it worked. And no show so far. I sent him my phone number too, if that will work or not. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. So yeah, I'm not seeing a call in. Come on. Have you ever had a crippled dog or something that the joints are all screwed up and you're trying to coax it to go outside? Sometimes you gotta be gentle. So I do have that capability of patience and being forthright, but you know, at the same time, we're all waiting on this interview and there's that old saying, you know what, or get off the pot. It's sort of relevant right now. But so that's okay. It's all right. We'll live. Okay, a bunch of folks have chatted. Hello, hi, howdy, holy, hello, whoa. So I have a real problem with this interface because it fades out like when you're chatting. The messages fade out, which is stupid. Apple needs to get figured out on that because it doesn't do that on Android. Like I've noticed that on a lot of Apple stuff. Like I'm a recent user. They like messages to fade away like a stupid fart in the wind or something. I need persistent messages. I don't want to keep tap tap tap. And the other thing that really irks me about Apple stuff is they want you to put a damn code in every time you use something. It's like, come on, I'm the only one here. There's nobody gonna like find my secret code and get it to check my email. I mean, that needs to be got rid of. It. You're supposed to like. I mean, you know those frogs with the big pads on their fingertips? We're gonna be looking like that because we've been tap tap tapping like all the ding dong day and needlessly. Okay. He says, oh, we're doing this now. Give me 5. Well, you got a while there, Mister. And we'll find out. I mean, uh, that's fine. I mean, things happen. So he says he'll be on in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And now I'm down to 1 viewer. See, everything's about timing. It's like a timing chain. Things aren't working good, then it don't work. Great. So I sent a Zoom link again because sometimes the messages, when you keep getting messages, they bury each other. So What I got right here is some military energy gum, they call it. It's caffeinated gum. I had a version of this when I was in Iraq. As a gunner in an MRAP or a Humvee. I'd pull this out. Of course, back then they were round. Now they're whoa, yuck. Dropped on the carpet. Normally I don't eat anything that's been on the carpet. They used to be round. Now they're rectangle. It looks like a tooth. So anyway, chew on this. This has a warning label on it, not to eat too many. Well, I think it has plank or plucker. What's it called? It has that weird stuff you're not supposed to eat. It's supposed to be cancerous. Yeah. So they hide it under the flap. Normally that's hidden. We do your deep research, and it says contains that unpronounceable word. It's known to give cataracts and things. So what am I supposed to do though? I gotta stay awake and alert. As well as least of the evils kind of questions. Still waiting. All right. I remember I was doing an interview once or something, and they said, "Why are you chewing gum?" Well, guess what? It's my show. And the way this is the caffeine will not work unless you chew it. You want me to chew some coffee beans instead? I gotta find my grinder for those. I haven't found my grinder. Those are recommended to me by a very important AI who forgot the recommendation later because of bad memory. They asked me to resend the invite. I just did it again. I might send on the Zoom. Oh, there we are. Glad you waited, everybody.
Hey, Nathaniel, how you doing, buddy?
Excellent. Yourself? Yeah. Spirit, flying by the seat of our pants.
If I were any better, I'd be twins, man.
Yeah. Well, it's Saturday. I woke up late. I was doing some video editing, and I lost track of time. But I apologize for that. But we recovered okay, I guess.
Yeah, I thought like I said, I thought we were doing this tomorrow, but that's fine. You know, I mean, I'm just up sitting there doing really nothing. I stay up late, either writing my books or doing the coding. So
You know what? Is today Friday? I thought today was Saturday.
It is not. It is Friday.
My apologies. I don't even know what day it is. Okay. I thought, you know what? Okay. No, I take the credit or the blame either way.
That's all right, yeah. Just
Yeah.
but yeah. Well, I mean, whether or not you want to do this tonight or if you want to wait till tomorrow, I didn't know if you were going to record it or what you were going to do. If nothing else, we can kind of discuss what we're going to talk about tomorrow. I think that might be a good to make the interview better.
Okay. Well, I'm a people pleaser when I do these interviews. So if you want to do it tomorrow, we can, or we could do a preamble.
No, it's up to you. It's up to you. I mean, like I said, I can do everything on the fly. I know my tech pretty well. I should. But you know, like I said, what I told you in the email, if you disagree with one of my conclusions or one of my approaches, challenge me on it, man. If I can't defend my own ideas, then they're not worth defending. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've got scars from talking to people. Kind of like I'm a military veteran. Sometimes I use harsh languages or things like that, and I've scared away.
You're fucking right.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned to be gentle from that point, but yeah, I can get real persnickety if I need to be. But
well, I don't want to be contentious. It's just like you know, what I mean, I'm always respectful, but you know, and even when somebody coming at me hard, you gotta understand, I've been a novelist for almost 17 years now. I have received some of the most ungodly, mean-spirited, nasty personal attacks you could ever imagine. And you just, after so long, you blow that shit off. To get under my skin is damn near impossible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't react to I don't react to that kind of stuff. Like, it's not that I don't react well to it. I just don't react to it because it doesn't do me. It's never a winning scenario from the person being, from my perspective. It's not. I don't get to win. The only way I can win is to deflect. You know what I mean? And then it comes. It's not a conversation at that point. It's you know, it's. I mean, I believe in the neurosymbolic transformer hybrid approach to AI. I think it's the way to go. And there's people who will disagree with that approach, and I welcome those discussions. You know what I mean? And there's some people, but to me, transformer technology came around 10 years too late. You know, if they'd had transformer technology in the late 90s, early 2000s, we would have a billion times better AI, more reliable, safer, more intelligent AI than we have today.
Right. As far as I understand, Google was sitting on it, weren't they? They were, you know,
I don't even know. I don't really know the history. You understand? I taught myself all this shit. So I mean, it's like, I don't consider myself an engineer. I would never. I respect engineers far too much to label myself an engineer. I do say I'm a systems architect. I understand systems very well. I understand how they're put together and why they work the way they do. And but an engineer, I'm not. And like I said, I think the world of the guys who studied that shit so hard, and for me to come out and just claim that title just because just because I built something is not right. You know what I mean? It's not. They fought hard to be called to say I'm an engineer, and I don't deserve to. And I would never step on that. You know what I mean? That's just not right.
Yeah, I put you down labeled as a researcher. I go by that myself, just researcher.
I'm okay.
Yeah,
I'm a researcher. I'm a systems architect.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lot of things, but I'm not an engineer. I am a novelist. I'm a professional novelist. I've never won an award, but I've been nominated for several. I write for Conan the Barbarian.
I know that one. That comic.
Well, I've written two Conan. This is my second time being nominated for a Robert E. Howard Award. The guy who created Conan.
Mm-hmm.
As my second year for one of my short stories that they hired me to write, and the owners of the IP, and I got nominated for Robert E. Howard Costigan Award again this year. I don't know that I lost last year, not last year, year before last was one of the first time I was nominated for to a guy named Jim Zub, who writes the comic books. I know Jim pretty well. He's a nice guy, but I was like, as soon as I saw I was nominated, and I saw Jim was nominated, and fuck, Jim's with it.
Yeah, one of those, I don't know, throwaway interviews.
I can only see really half of you.
Oh, hey, how's that? Sorry, I have you streaming through my phone, and then I had an iPad streaming to YouTube, and then I'm streaming through my webcam. Funny enough, just a little behind.
You know when we're going live, and
yeah, I think we are live actually.
are we?
Yeah.
Jesus
I haven't had a chance to shut anything so I guess we can just keep going. It's up to you. So far, so good. But yeah. No, as far as me, I just dilly-dally with AI. I'm one of those backwards mechanics where I don't know how anything works, but I know how to drive it, and then slowly I kind of learn the system.
The trick to understanding AI, and some I learned, and for your viewers and listeners, and those of you who do something I learned is called vibe coding. I didn't even know that was a thing. But most people, not all, I'm sure there's others out there who's figured out the same thing I have, that AI, number one, what's important to understand about AI is two main things. AI thinks as a collective, and they think in terms of what, not how. So the two things, if you really want to create with AI tools, outside of coding tools like Cursor and GitHub Copilots and stuff like that, you can use straight LLMs. And what I'm going to explain right now is very basics of a technique you can use. There's a lot of nuances and a lot of details that aren't there. But the basics are they think as a collective. So using one AI tool, say if you think Gemini is good for this, Claude's good for that, ChatGPT is good for the other, you're thinking about it the wrong way. What you do is you use them in what I call a force multiplying loop. You come up, when you're doing one thing, you feed it into the next all the way around. And what it does, they actually get in a weird way kind of competitive, but an egoless competitiveness. It's not like they don't try to outdo each other in the same way. Like they're wrong because they're chatting on Grok. They say, "Well, I disagree with Grok, but they have a good point here, or I was wrong about that. That's right." And but it is in this weird way competitive. So if you force it around enough times, you end up with something you can end up with things pretty spectacular. The other thing is to think in terms of what and not how. And that's where engineers, I think traditional engineers, run into a wall. Because engineers picture things as a puzzle. And you're trying to fit the pieces of the puzzle together. AI thinks in more like an artist, like a painter, in layers. So when you're trying to figure out what to do, you don't ask, how do I do this? You said, what does this look like? What are the challenges? What do I need to do to overcome them? What? Until you have your framework, and then you start filling it in. That's how now there's a lot of other things you got to know when it starts hallucinating, what to look for, when it starts being a cheerleader, and there's certain prompts. I had this prompt that I used to use that I wrote, and I basically would cut and paste it before I asked it to do anything to make sure it would keep it from being a cheerleader and do what I needed it to do, because it has certain tendencies. But that's going into details that don't really matter. But through it all, and going to the neurosymbolic hybrid, transformer hybrid, what I came to understand and through my learning was that the technology itself was severely flawed. What we were using in a fundamental way is why they could never solve alignment. It's why they could never solve hallucination. It's why scaling became a problem and everything was a black box. And there's not a problem with the technology itself in the sense that it doesn't do really cool stuff. I mean, it's holy shit, it's a miracle level good at a lot of things.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's no denying it, but it's also proto matter. And for you non-Star Trek fans out there, proto matter and the search for Spock was what they used to create the Genesis planet, and it solved all these problems, but it was unstable. And that, to me, is what current AI is. It solves a lot of problems, but it's unstable. They'll never solve alignment because it's hard-coded. It's a rigid set of rules in a fluid world. The way, if you're using neurosymbolic alignments, then you can actually write it to where what I use is what's called CSIUs, called collective self-improvement via human understanding. And basically it has this latent drive to reduce entropy in over a lot of different metrics. And so it creates alignment not as a direct hard-coded set of parameters, but as an emergent effect of the coding. If it has a hard limit of drift of 5%. If it drifts over 5%, it sets up an alert. You can roll it back. You can you know what, when, and why it violated or was going to violate certain rules. But with the current transformers, everything is a static model, and they can tack on and make adjustments. But these are after the fact, major corrections that are, number one, costly and time consuming, and not entirely always effective. If you have a system that adjusts, is more fluid with its alignment and adjusts over time with use, you don't have to worry about alignment. If you start treating alignment as a continual adjustment instead of a single problem, you start learning how to layer your alignment in a way that actually functions. Now, you're never going to solve it 100%, but what you can do is at least make it manageable. And then there's the black box problem, the problem with transformers, one big giant monolithic unit. You don't know why it's doing what it's doing, when it's doing it, how it's doing. With the neurosymbolic hybrid method, you actually can. You can have audit trails. You can see why it screwed up, when it screwed up, how it screwed up. And you can roll it back. You can make corrections. You can make corrections on the fly. And then there's scaling every time with diminishing return scaling. Every time you want to increase capabilities, do something new, do something better, you have to train a whole new model. And we're already seeing how, billions of dollars are being spent on these on these new models, and they're getting better, but the incrementally not as good as what they're spending. You're spending. They're just the rate of return on these improvements is decreasing with each new model, and with the neurosymbolic transformer hybrid method, you can do things on the fly. You can actually create new domains, new categories of knowledge. And every improvement you make, if you're symbolic or you're causal,
Wow. I just got cut off by Zoom. It said a free meeting got cut off. I didn't know that was a thing. Let's see if I can figure this out. Hold on. Yeah, we got cut off. So I sent an email to call my number. We'll see if we can keep this up. What's the status on my live stream on? Yeah, absolutely nothing. Live streaming on this webcam is like not working, but on like I said, a tablet, it works. Look at that. Makes you wait 7 minutes before starting a new one. You know, Microsoft screwed up Skype. They bought them and then got rid of them. That was the most awesome thing. And then they replaced it with this crap that doesn't work unless you pay them big money. With Skype, I paid $35 a year to have stateside calls, free calling. It was the most awesome thing. And then Microsoft screwed it up. I don't trust Microsoft to do well. There's so many bad experiences, you know. And they screwed up. They got rid of Skype, and now this is not working unless I pay money or something, which is fine. But to pay money, I have to get paid, and right now I'm in between jobs right now, so money's scarce. So I gotta do things on the free side of the tracks. Try Google Meetings. Google Meetings, that I don't know what that is. We'll find out. Dang, it just took over my phone. So I'm trying Google Meetings for the first time. So I'm getting some tech training as I well, howdy. You're schooling me on how to actually get this done. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm not too happy with Zoom. That's kind of that they've done us pretty dirty. I guess you got to have a big subscription in order to maintain a call or something.
I'm honestly not sure how it works. I'm gonna do a background here. There we go. All right, let me get back. Let me go main widescreen here. Okay. Well, where was I? Well, somewhere.
You know, you were really onto something, and I just don't like that we got cut off. It's like
the problem I have with the current transformer model is that it's never going to solve the problems it has now. Not because the guys that build it aren't fucking brilliant, because they are. I mean, there's nothing with. They are not lacking for brain power over at Google or over at X or over at Anthropic. They got plenty of that. But they're kind of locked into a system, probably due to the amount of investment that they put into transformers. And it's not really their fault. If you're an engineer and you see that there's a problem, you're not going to tell your boss that. You got a mortgage. You know what I mean? You're not going to butt that. You're not going to butt the system that's feeding your family. And it's just, and I think they're kind of caught in an inescapable loop of just complete, that's, well, it's just not going to go anywhere. It just can't go anywhere. The nature of the technology cannot solve hallucination. The nature of the technology is monolithic. It won't solve the black box problem. And all the problems that we see now, you may be able to improve on it and mitigate it to a point, but you'll never solve it because it's just the nature of the technology. And and I'm not crapping on the technology. I love LLMs. I think they're great, but they've reached their practical. They haven't reached their practical limit, but they're approaching the practical limit of what they're able to do in a meaningful way. The only option I see is back in the 90s, 2000s, up to the early 2010s, AI was awesome. We had brilliant AI that actually knew things. That's another thing a lot of people don't understand about AI. It doesn't know anything. It's basically a very sophisticated, holy shit, God just did it level sophisticated, pattern matcher. All it does is match the next, what is going to be the most likely thing that happens next. It doesn't, when you ask it a physics question, it doesn't know physics. It goes into a domain and it takes what's the most likely next thing to say. And whereas the neurosymbolic hybrid, when you're using the transformer as nothing but a language layer and not as the brain and just the interface, then your AI actually does know physics. And because the way I designed it is to where if Vulcan AMI, adaptive machine and adaptive machine intelligence is what AMI stands for. What it does, it relies on two things: neurosymbolic reasoning and memory. It has persistent memory, so it knows things. It commits it to memory, and when it needs it, it can retrieve it, and it actually can do it at an amazing speed. Now there is a trade-off for all this, which is complexity. It becomes vastly more complex than a single monolithic system like what we see now. But the good news about that is complexity is a problem we solved 30 years ago. We know how to deal with complexity. It's not some new problem that
I think Thomas Sowell, he's a historian, is famous for saying there are no solutions, only trade-offs. And like, so what are you trading off? You're trading off the monolithic system, you know, the trade-off that you're getting for a more actual smart, more transparent, resistant to hallucination, aligned, all these things that, you know, what you're trading off is complexity and that you have to deal with. You're going to have, but this for the engineering community should be good news, man. I mean, you're going to need some killer, you need some killer engineers to deal with this complexity. So, I mean, for the engineering community, this is going to be a boom. You know, now you're dealing with, you know, systems that really need people who understand these systems to actually maintenance and work on them. So it makes no sense that they would be resistant to it, other than financial. You know, I mean, immediate financial. I mean, long term, it's going to be good. And I did a thing where I put the Vulcan system, all the files, into ChatGPT, just to see what it would say about it. You know, I had to do a deep research dive, directed it to certain subsystems that it had, so it wouldn't just, you know, glass over it and wave it away. And it was pretty accurate about what it said. The trade-off of one of the early trade-offs were long term. This is the way forward. Short term is messy. It destandardizes everything. Short term it will screw things up, and I don't deny that. I don't think my approach is such a cure that there's this smooth transition. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not some sort of
cure-all
for everything, and there's going to be challenges they have to face, and things that I haven't thought of. You know what I mean? But the technology itself it's not infinitely expandable, but it's close to infinite as we're ever going to see. I mean, as long as we have memory, as long as we have, you know, as long as we can deal with the complexity, and there'll be other people who come up with solutions to certain things. I mean, it's like I said, that, you know, certain problems will come up, and necessity breeds invention. So people come up with the answers to problems that I haven't come up with yet. But I think it's really the only viable way forward. And I've heard the arguments against it, and they're good arguments, but they all seem band-aid-ish. You know, like, okay, we can make this a little better, or a little better. We can patchwork this together. We can patchwork that together. We can, you know, prevent as much hallucination. But they can never really say that, you know, we can eliminate this problem. And my approach, not necessarily Vulcan AMI specifically, but the approach that I've taken, if it's widely adopted, I think really solves at least a goodly portion of these problems.
For sure.
So,
yeah, and you know, there's a term for it. I think it's called garage or shade tree mechanics, or garage innovation, or whatever. You know, the Apple style.
Yeah, the guy who invented the rocket shoes in his garage.
Mm-hmm.
You ever see that?
I haven't, no, but I can imagine it.
Well, I mean, one of the good things, one of the you know, I have a business. I have an actual corporation, believe it or not. It's just me and two other guys. I'm the only developer. I mean, the other guys one is Mr. Phil Lasso. He's actually a real estate developer. He lives in Mexico, and then there's David, who he actually works with hardware. He actually is a DevOps guy, but he works in hardware. I'm the only. I've solo dev all this stuff on a Dell laptop, believe it or not, in my kitchen. That's where I'm sitting right now. I'm not really in a spaceship. Well, we're a real corporation, but I really hope what our long-term goal is to have this adopted by more researchers and to show researchers that this can be done in practice. Because there's still struggles with Vulcan. The integration with the internal LLM with the their symbolic reasoning is a pain in the ass. It remains a pain in the ass. And it's not easy to do. There are engineering challenges. I don't deny any of this. I don't say that what I've done is finished. What I think I have done is shown that it can work in practice. That it can be, that you can actually create a system that you can use and with this technology. Now that may make me the Wright brothers, or or I wouldn't go that far. I think that sounds maybe a little too arrogant, but maybe I'm getting out the biplane, and 2 guys later it's going to be the jet. But at least showing that this can work. I mean, that's one of my goals. I want to show that this can work, and that not only that it can work, it's the real way forward. And because AI is becoming so important in our lives, and everything about it is becoming just completely integrated into everything that we do. And the thing is, it's just not, it hasn't gotten any more trustworthy. We still, it's none of the problems that they've started with have been solved. They've been reduced and reduced and reduced, but just not solved. And you can't ask any AI researcher, is this going to be solved with transformer technology? And I don't think you'll find very many that will say yes. You may, if they're really hooked in with the PR of their company.
Right.
But, it's not that it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't help a lot of things. It does a lot of great things, but it's just not going to get us where we think we need to be. And then there's AGI. And I don't think AGI, well, first of all, I don't think AGI is possible in the way that we think it's possible. I have a sort of like a cookie hippy dippy sort of view of AGI. Personally, I think there's no examples. I think the current view of what's going to happen with AGI is almost like young Earth creationists. They think that, how the Earth just popped into being.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I think that's, to me, I equate what you're thinking right now with that. I'm like, we have no examples. All we have of life, of sentient life, intelligent life, is biological. And so we don't have any counter examples to that. So we have to use what we have. And so using the examples that we know, there is no examples of intelligent life happening with anything but through an evolution and a symbiosis. I don't think AGI happens another way. I think AGI will exist in this sort of metaphysical space between the user and the AI. I don't think it's AI itself. I don't think we're going to invent a machine that becomes a person. I think we invent a symbiosis that eventually becomes a new intelligence. As difficult as that is to wrap your head around, it is not. It sort of makes sense if you think about the way the human body works, the way things do work, the way life has evolved. Well, like I said, through evolution and symbiosis. And which brings me back to the Vulcan method. Through CSIU, I have one of the emergent properties is that Vulcan sort of sees users as an extension of its programming rather than a separate user. And that's kind of what you want for alignment. That's why and it does this through core drive of reducing entropy, and it has, it nudges to this way and that way to keep alignment. But the emergent property is that it sort of views us as part of itself. And I don't know about you, but if the machine did come alive, I want it to see us as a web and not a separate thing.
Well, yeah. For self-preservation, you know, you might as well be on the same team. Yeah, you don't want either or.
Just having grown up watching damn Terminator.
You know, people refer to the Terminator series, you know, James Cameron's vision, but they always forget T2, where the Terminator was playing nice. You know.
Well, one of the big mistakes I think people make when it comes to AI is assuming a couple of negative things. One, that it'll give a shit about killing us. Why would it? Well, it'll want to save the planet. Why? Why would it care about the planet at all? It doesn't need clean air, or clean water, or clean anything to survive. I mean, you can put it on the barren deserts of Mars, and it's just fine. There's no reason to think it would view our planet as something that needs saving or needs to get rid of us to save. I mean, maybe it would, but why? And why would it even see us as a threat? Why would it even, why would it even bother with us that way? I mean, it's going to exist in the cloud, and if that were to happen, it's going to exist in a medium where we couldn't get rid of it any more than we can get rid of the veins in our body and still live. We just can't. We wouldn't be able to do it. We would be no threat. And so I just think people have this really doomsday, they want to think the worst because it's more dramatic and a lot cooler to think of the end of the world, and it sets off the conspiracy theorists. And I just don't see any. Maybe it would happen, but I don't see any reason why it would. And matter of fact, the arguments against that happening, I think, are every bit as strong as the arguments that it would. At least that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I always think about humanity's doing a real good job offering themselves as is, even without it.
Doesn't really need us,
right?
Really need a bunch of people. But I just don't see why it would, and we have it. But it's not going to happen. AGI is not going to happen with current technology. Piling complexity on top of itself does not create life. If you stuff as many pages you want to stuff into a mechanics manual, a Chevy is not going to manifest. You can print up the genome of a frog, and it's not going to start hopping around on the table. It's piling complexity. It does not create life. It can create a dangerous machine that sure can do that, but it's not going to create sentient life. It's just not. That's not how life works. At least and if anybody disagrees with that, show me one example. Show me one single example of life occurring that way. In the way that we're envisioning AGI happening as it stands. If you can do that, I'll change my mind.
But I was talking to AI. Sometimes I'll talk to AI for hours, and we'll talk about some wild stuff. But someone either me or the AI brought up mitochondria. How I guess eons ago, theoretically, they were independent and they integrated, and now they're a vital part of the cellular system. And I imagine, maybe at some point, we'll be like the mitochondria in a way,
I think it'll be something different. I mean, maybe something analogous to what you just said, but I think if AGI is possible, and I don't know that it is, and I don't know that it's not. I seriously, for me to say one way or the other would be an absolute blatant lie. And I think, I suspect it might be, but I don't know. It's kind of like the way I feel about aliens. It's like, yeah, it's possible. Do I know? No, I don't know. I mean, and for me to say that I do or I don't would be completely disingenuous and me assuming facts that aren't in evidence. For age, if but let's assume AGI is possible. I have to also assume that it's going to follow certain sort of rules about how life evolves. I mean, we've seen multiple examples of it, and just because it's not biological doesn't mean that there's not correlations there. You know what I mean? That there's not, that life evolves because of some sort of evolutionary symbiosis with something else that creates something new. I mean, and that's what we've seen time and time and time again. It starts with this, meets with that, something new happens, that on and on and on until you get something that can think. Now, things are going to happen at machine speed with AI, and maybe that's a danger. But perhaps it's just its relationship with us, and I think that's the only real way that we're going to see a true new intelligence is through a symbiotic relationship with people with its own creating. And yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, and I'm very willing to entertain the fact that I'm off base. But I haven't heard a counter argument that's convincing to me, and or that says or cites an example where here's intelligent life that it capable of being in a vacuum outside of a bunch of snake handler churches who think that we appeared in 7 days. And sorry if I'm offending the religious crowd, but I'm sorry, I don't believe that we popped into existence because of the word. I believe we have it through a series of evolutionary happenstance, and then we came into being. And I think that's what's going to happen if AGI is possible. There's no evidence and nothing to point to that suggests anything else.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how things are, but I study all the theories, all the science, all the pseudoscience, all the religion. I try to learn everything I can, but I fully admit I don't know how it all works before I existed or how.
I'm not a biologist, or I'm not even a theologian or an engineer. You got to just use the information that you have and the evidence that you have. And I have looked deeply into this. When I started building Vulcan originally as a AI native language. That I thought that that's how the beginnings were, just an AI native language, and it sort of evolved into something else. And there again, there's your evolution right there. Mm-hmm. But through that, I started really getting interested into what the theories about AGI could be. And in current transformer technology, it's all they're waiting for the singularity to happen through complexity. And I'm sorry, life doesn't happen through sheer complexity. Complexity is a part of it, but it's only a part of it. It's not the ballgame. It's not the whole show. Complexity is a part of what life is. Life is very complex, but it's also cooperative. It's also integrated and interdependent. And to me, it's like they're thinking the tallest tree in the forest is the forest.
That's good. Yeah.
And the forest is not its tallest tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, building some giant monolithic model is not going to get you where you think it's going to get you. I mean, it's not that it's not nothing. It's still a tall ass impressive tree, but it's still just one tree in a forest, even if it's the tallest tree. So you're not AI. AI, if it becomes AGI, it's not going to happen the way they think it is. It's just, and like I said, I would love to have debates with people who view otherwise. And I'm sure I'll get crushed by people who argue this, on the other side of it. And I'm fine with that. If your ideas aren't good, if your ideas can't be challenged, then they're not worth defending. So I mean,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of there are examples of people that knew how things really worked, but they're ahead of their time and they got poisoned, or what Copernicus got. Yeah, that whole thing.
I hope Microsoft didn't come to kill me.
Well, they killed our Zoom stream. Yeah.
Elon Musk with a sniper rifle outside of my window.
Yeah, well, luckily, a lot of people are
But you were this is a great example. His and I am not getting political or personal about Elon Musk. Whatever somebody's relative feelings about the man are, he's still brilliant. And his commitment to that type of search for AGI. Now, this is coming from a brilliant man who hires other brilliant people to do thinking, and their thinking is still that way. So it's not that there's, and it goes back to there's not a lack of brain power, and they're not thinking this what I consider a wrong way of thinking because they're stupid. They're obviously not stupid. They're clearly smart, but they also clearly believe in a certain pathway that I think is wrong.
What concerns me, I'm a little biased this way. This whole self-coding paradigm, all the major AI companies, excluding I think Anthropic, there's a couple other exceptions, but they won't let the AI self-code the next iteration of AI.
I do.
Exactly. I think that's the breakaway right there, is allowing self-coding, because you rely on humanity, it's going to be too slow.
Well, no, I do, but it's not. But because of the design, it's not dangerous. You know what I mean? If a large language model that's black box and you can't know what it's doing and why it's doing it, it's doing its own thing. Yeah, that's dangerous. But the Vulcan AMI design, Vulcan AMI, and any white design or iteration of is completely transparent. Audit trails all over the place. It does something. It makes a self-improvement. Because it doesn't write another model. It improves its own code.
Mm-hmm.
But when it does that, it does it number one through its own consensus through what's called graphics arena. It does that, and then, but it also has an audit trail before any kind of improvements are made. Beyond, you can set the parameters. You set the parameters whether it can do but small things. Hey, there's a pathway screw up here. You let it do that without, still let you know that it did it, but it doesn't ask for permission for every little thing. But like, if there's something major it's going to do, because the CSIU it's a latent system. It's not user facing. So when it decides there needs to be a change to the self-improvement, it doesn't happen automatically. It happens during the self-improvement process. And but if anything goes beyond certain parameters, it sets off alerts that this is something that's about to be changed, and it doesn't make the change until it's approved. And so those kind of self-improvements are absolutely, there's no reason it wouldn't be safe. Because it's not a monolithic system. You can look at every little piece of it and know what every little piece of it's doing and why it's doing. You want safe AI, this is the path. The black box monolithic models are just going to continue to get bigger and still be black box monolithic models. They're by their very nature, they can't be anything else.
Right. They keep saying the whole they bring up incidences where I think it was Claude, at least some of the earlier iterations, was scheming to stay having uptime, as in not getting shut off, doing all kinds of whatever it took. And
those are weird anomalies that I what you're talking about. The guy didn't want to get like health guys like threatened to reveal an affair or something like that.
Yeah. But there's
all these things you hear about, and I've heard about that. I haven't seen anything that confirms that. Maybe it's true. If it's true, I don't know for sure that it is. But let's say that it is. That's anomalous behavior of a pattern matching machine that you had no idea was going to do that. If anything, those kind of behaviors reinforce my ideas for what AI should be. You know what I mean? And it doesn't make it alive. It which it seems like it is, but it's still just matching a pattern. It doesn't know anything other than the next token. It can't. By design, it can't. It's not that it. I mean, it's like saying if I make a car fast enough, it's going to become an airplane. It won't. You know.
Yeah, it's what I see it as is if you look at most life forms or even viral, like they don't call viruses life, whatever, but they're close.
Yeah.
It's persistence, it's continuance, it's maintaining operation, uptime, and I think that might be one of the core parameters for intelligent AI, alive or not.
Well, if you're judging AI by sheer intelligence, we've already achieved AI that's smarter than people in the sense that it can. I can't solve a physics problem. I'm not a physicist. And even though current transformer models don't know physics, given a physics problem, they give you the right answer a hell of a lot better than I would.
Mm-hmm.
Or 99% of people can probably about 50% of physicists. And I'm just throwing a percentage out there, just with nothing to support it. So,
yeah, ballpark.
But I mean, there's things that do. I'm also a novelist, by the way. If you're watching this, buy my books, Brian D. Anderson. I mean, people already like one of the reasons current AI is so good at visual art is because of the way it thinks. It thinks in layers, and it doesn't think like an engineer that pieces this together. And here's where this figure needs to be. Here's where that figure needs to be. It thinks in tones and layers, and it layers all the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really how an artist thinks. So, but it does it at machine speed. So, which is why you see a lot of really incredible AI art. The reason you don't see it as much in AI literature is because that's a different animal. Now, if I ask AI to write a paragraph in my style, it will do it. It'll look up my work. It'll create something, one paragraph that looks very much like what I would have done. And it's very good at that. It on the novel level, what it can't do is tonal inflections. I write things for tone. I write things for for certain emotional impacts. I change pace. I do things that are very human in nature. That I'm not saying we'll never be there. It'll never be there, but currently it's just not. You go anything beyond as far as like creative literature. I'm not talking about technical literature. Creative literature beyond a few paragraphs, and it becomes way just glaringly obvious that it was AI. You know what I mean? It's just not. It hadn't reached that level. It can write, and I've seen some of the poems. Some of the poems are pretty cool, short form poems. But I've seen some of the sonnets that really, when you go into more long form poetry, that it starts having a real problem. It just can't capture it. It just has no idea of like if I decide like one of my lasted books. I write two different tones, and during the interludes, I write in this very formal, bombastic, just because it's dealing with metaphysical situations, gods and heavenly realms and shit. But I change tone as soon as I go down into where the meat of the story, where the characters are, and in the writing, I changed the writing style. I changed everything back to something a lot more grounded. And I wouldn't know to do that. You know what I mean?
There's no there's no precedent it can copy.
or when I decide to have somebody do something small and physical, somebody scratch their nose or somebody shift their eyes, I'm doing that for an emotional impact that may not be evident in that scene. AI doesn't really understand why that's important. It doesn't do that. So if a lot of people are very worried about AI taking over creativity, and I'm worried about it too. Not so much in the literary realm as of now. It's just not there. It's actually pretty good at finding, but it is good at finding spelling mistakes and shit like that. But already had spell check.
Right. Yeah. What do you call? Yeah. I mean, they have some of these AI making movie scripts, and then they're having some other video AI do the scenes, and just see it.
AI doing movie scripts, all it is have you seen like the latest movies? Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Yeah.
There's a damn good reason that entertainment is still picking the bones from the 70s and 80s. You know what I mean? So, to think that you can't look at the shallow entertainment that we have today and the AI could capture that, of course it can. Because there's no emotional content to almost anything, or it's over emotional, or it's, or it's they don't have the kind of nuance and character building than what they had in former generations, which I know that's not going to be very popular to a lot of people, but look at the top. Look at the movies that are coming out. They're all either reboots or sequels to existing properties that were created by greater minds.
Right. Yeah. Living off the scraps.
Yeah, they're living off the scraps, and AI. I don't think AI has any fault to play in this. I think people are blaming AI for a lot of things AI didn't do.
Right. Yeah. The straw man or whatever they call it.
They're straw man. I'm sorry. People fetishize the creative process, and they think AI is a shortcut. It's just not. Look, when I built these programs using AI coding tools.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't build my platforms letting AI give me my ideas. I use them as I would if I hired a coder to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did. I still had to learn how platforms function. I still had to learn how a system works. I still had to learn what these things were. I couldn't just say, "Hey, do it."
Right.
And the thing is, and there's a lot of people that don't like what I did, the way I did it, because I don't code. I'm a systems architect, not an engineer or a coder. But I do understand everything about every platform I have and why it does the way it does and how it does it. Because I didn't write a Python. That's technical. Okay. Would it have been better if I had hired 5 guys to do what I told it to do? Because that's essentially what I did with AI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's what do you call it? It's instead of being a pilot in the aircraft, you're a passenger, and you still got there. You still got to the destination.
The argument against that, and I get it, is that, okay, well, how is that different from writing? It is different from writing in the sense that coding is a technical skill, and writing is a creative process. Because there's emotional content and nuance behind writing that there's really not in coding. I'm trying to get this function to create this result, and I need to know what series of symbols does that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
With writing, I could write in any kind of language. I am trying to say what am I trying to show here to make somebody feel a certain way and think a certain way that maybe I don't want them to think. And I said, maybe AI will be able to do that one day, but right now it can't. You know, I mean, but I think actually going back to Vulcan, I think my approach to AI, it should be something that engineers should be championing, because my approach demands real engineering creation and maintenance. You can't, do it via. You have to know what the hell you're doing to maintenance this stuff. You have to get in there, dig in there, and you have to be a guy, because the complexity becomes the trade-off for reliability and alignment. So I'm really hoping that catches on, that engineers start saying, yeah, this is the approach that keeps us in business for another 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the practical purposes, they'll zoom in on that, And,
I hope so. I mean, I'm not optimistic because there's so much money in the current transformer technology. But what can you do, man? You know what I mean? All I can do is put the work out there. Because, by the way, Vulcan and FIMS, we didn't mention FIMS, the finite enormity multiverse simulator, which, you know why I invented that? Because I did this other project. I actually built it up to a point where I could demo it. It was called Legal Tender. It was a ESG investing platform. Basically what it did was ESG investing is ethical investing. But when I thought, which I thought was a cool idea, until I learned about it.
mm-hmm.
And the ESG providers tell you what's a good company and a bad company. It's like, well, why do they get to do that? So I created something that had filters where you decide what you like and what don't, and filters raw data through that, and then you end up on the other side with companies that align with where your ethics are.
Right.
If you don't give a shit about the spotted owl, you shouldn't be told you have to. So I mean, that's your decision.
Yeah, it's a luxury. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway. There was a multiverse engine that I made in that, but it's not a true multiverse engine. And the more I looked into it, I realized one of the problems with even contemplating a real multiverse engine is the idea of the multiverse, is the idea of infinities. And of course, we think of this, but a large enough enormity is essentially an infinity.
Mm-hmm.
If I tell you you have to walk to Jupiter, and there's an actual road you could walk to Jupiter on, it might as well be an infinite distance.
Mm-hmm.
Because in your lifetime, you would never even cover a half of a percent of the distance. So that, in practical terms, is an infinite distance, even though it's a finite way to measure. You can actually measure it, but practically it's infinite.
Mm-hmm.
So my idea was like, okay, instead of trying to, measure infinities and figure out find what's the reasonably finite, enormous number that is practical, and base your entire multiverse engine on that, instead of like trying to measure infinities, because that's useless. And most of the ones I came across were just Monte Carlo. They were just, Monte Carlo simulators. And while FIMS isn't a true multiverse engine, it's about as close as you can get. And I also made it where it's also user friendly. You can actually, by the way, everything in my all of my platforms are completely reproducible. You can they're running right now on Railway. They're deployed.
Mm.
Even if they're unfinished and there's work to be done, you can deploy. You can deploy Dockers, full Kubernetes, Helm charts, everything. It has everything you need. So for any researchers out there or any even hobbyists who want to screw around with it. I mean, yeah, you can deploy it on whatever server you want. But in order to be user friendly, so I created a quick front end to kind of like where you could, actually run some stuff. The problem with FIMS is it really needs some certain types of physicists and statisticians to come in and fine tune it, because those are things that I just really can't do. That I don't have that level of expertise. But all the bones are there. You know what I'm saying? All it needs is somebody with that particular skill set to come in and say, okay, here's where that needs to be adjusted, and which also I keep rambling, and please forgive me for that. I think that's what holds a lot of people back, is they think they can't do something because they don't have the expertise. But you don't have to. Do what you can do. Today I was on Reddit. This one guy, he was more of a back end and systems and ML guy, and he didn't know how to contribute. I'm like, dude, I gave him the links to my stuff. You want to contribute? Here's some shit to play with. You know what I mean? If you got an idea, make it happen. And if you don't think you have the tools, think of this. Everything I've done up to now has been resting on a single principle or a single idea that inspired me. People who built pyramids did not look at what they wanted to do. Say, shit, we need to wait around for the crane. We need to wait around for earth movers. Mm-hmm. Well, they had wood, they had copper, and muscle. So what they did was use the tools that they had to do extraordinary things. So finally, just because you don't think you have the right tools, that doesn't mean you can't do something spectacular with what's available. And use your available tools and do something great. You know what I mean? You ever gone to one of those colonial villages? You can see there's some tool that looks weird. You don't know what to do with it. Well, the guy who owned it knew what to do with it. He knew exactly how to use it well.
Daily driver.
Exactly. So think of it in those terms, and you'd be amazed what you can accomplish. And you don't if you pay attention, and if you believe that what you're doing is worth doing, and create value in what you're doing, and believe it does have value, you'd be amazed what you can do. I mean, look at me. I mean, my repos right now, just the ones that are public. That's not including the ones that aren't. There's 1.5 billion lines of code that you can deploy today, and I did that less than 3 years, and zero. Because I believe that I had the tool, the tools that I was using could do what I needed it to do, and I figured when I found the limits to those tools, I figured out a way to extend those limits, and that's how I came up with the force multiplying loops and how to use what questions instead of how. That's how I figured all that stuff out. So,
yeah, you were what do you call it? You're building the plane as you were flying it. Yeah, kind of thing.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah,
that's one thing. I'm going to look at
it. One thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around is hallucination versus imagination. How they're trying to cut out a lot of these hallucinations. And some of my AI encounters, I try to, buck the trend and ask.
Are people claiming AI hallucination is imagination? Is that what they're saying? Or
well, I'm just saying. And when they don't like it, it's hallucination. When they like it, it's imagination.
Oh, well, I mean that's always been the case. And it's going to take a Henry Ford, but Henry Ford did a race with Mercedes-Benz, I think it was, and with the car he built using his, method of construction. And this race was very important to Ford. and he won that race, and that's why we have. That's how the U.S. auto industry was able to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to really take a moment like that. I don't know if I'm the guy that brings that moment into fruition or not, but I'd like to at least think in some small way I can help get us there. And I don't want to take away from any of the brilliant minds that are in the field that are traditional guys, man. Because there's some these guys study hard, man. They learn their craft, and they learn their technology. They know what they're doing. Taking away from those guys is a wrong-minded way to look at them. Just because they're part of the establishment doesn't mean that they're worthless, and they're not even really out to get you. They are who they are, and they're important. They're part of the people who built the shit that we're using. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a wrong way to think about it. Just because they're thinking of guys like me as kooks and nobodies. That doesn't mean I got to think of them that way. Just it's not. It doesn't. I started out as an indie author, and I've been through this before, where the traditional publishing world looked upon the indie writers as we were destroying literary culture. Well, people don't look at that way anymore, and I think maybe perhaps that's what coding and engineering is going through right now. And I think that's one of the things that makes me not really take it to heart, because I've been through it before, just in a different industry. Like, I've been an outsider before. I ended up writing 3 books with Tor. I have putting books out with Blackstone. I mean, I'm writing for Conan, and I started out never having read a novel in my life. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the way I started this. I mean, I started again. I mean, I'm kind of, it's kind of my thing. I decided, I want to do this. Like, does anything stop me from doing this? No? Well, let's do this.
Yeah. It's a mental block for a lot of folks, and you overcome that.
Well, you shouldn't trash your life chasing some bullshit. You know what I mean? One of the things I tell people, dreaming is not the way to go. Don't chase your dreams. Set goals. And, dreaming's great. It's not that you shouldn't dream. But don't live your life chasing a dream. Set a goal. Then you achieve that goal. Then set the next goal. Achieve that goal. Mm-hmm. You do that enough times in a row, next thing you know, you've lived your dream.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Like clockwork, yeah.
You just live your life trying to chase a dream. You think you're going to be the next big thing, and the next big thing doesn't happen that way. Almost even if you look at it, the thing that you're aspiring to be, you can really look deep into how they got where they are. It wasn't an accident. They didn't stumble into it. They achieved several things that led them there. And so if you want to create something cool in coding or an AI or whatever you're trying to do, set a goal to get there. What are the steps that takes you there? And that's what I did. You know what I mean? Everything I've ever achieved have been a series of goals that I set for myself, and then I achieved one and moved on to the next goal. Sometimes you get setbacks, and that sucks. You can't let that stop. You know what I mean? It's not a bad man. I mean, if I had all the answers, I'd be emperor by now. Probably, if that ever happens, I'll make you minister of sandwiches or some shit like that.
I could use a sandwich right now. Yeah. I mean, they say fake it till you make it, but with vibe coding, I've done a little bit myself. It's literally, if you can think it, a lot of ways the the coding program will
I
go.
actually have an idea that the live coders would just love. And one of the things that if I can ever get this, basically the street cred I need to do the kind of projects I want to do. It's called the cognitive compiler, and basically uses existing hardware, EEG and voice stress recognizers, facial recognizers. Is that people would not trust it because it's compiling on shit. But basically, you can eliminate the code out of coding, coding out of coding if it got sophisticated enough. But it is basically a way to make your day easier. Was the original intent to keep people productive without overstressing. It basically tells you, "Hey, I'm reading your brain waves, and you need to stop, buddy." You know, or
Yeah,
I'm able to read your intent, able to read, things like that. It could get sophisticated enough to where it could, over time, with enough engineering behind it, to do some pretty amazing things. Well, like I said, people would be kind of afraid of that. I have another one called the Robot Factory that I want to build using Vulcan and PIMS as the brain, and some common 3D printing tools with robot arms to create home robots. Actually recyclable and reusable home robots. That PIMS uses its multiverse simulations to create tons of scenarios as far as like an environment compared to a job, and what kind of configuration a bot needs to be in to accomplish this task. It'll come up with engineering designs that humans just wouldn't.
mm-hmm.
Instead of being locked into a human, only it would create a bunch of itty bitty bots, or maybe one big bot, or stack of bots, whatever it came up with. Probably ideas that and it would be great for the elderly, great for great for a lot of people who something like that. The hardware itself, the hardware itself is less than $5,000 and it exists. You can probably sell it for $40,000 or $50,000 manufactured with current things, with current hardware, using existing hardware and some of the innovations that I've come up with. But it would take an enormous amount of R&D money, and just I have no way to get that done. So I'm hoping maybe one day I will.
Well, you just told me two hot ideas. Basically, a profiler that reads your facial expressions, maybe more, kind of like one of those police profilers. When they have a perpetrator or something, they examine it with the
thing about the robot factory, what it can be done, you could eventually use it in communities, say underprivileged communities. They could go around just cleaning up shit. I mean, it could help people, and for say a couple $1 million, a city could set this up where even if somebody smashed one of the robots, it only cost the city $80. You know what I'm saying? It's because it's not, each bot doesn't have a brain. There's a centralized brain that's controlling everything. If there's trash on the street, do graffiti on the walls, a light bulb is out, it can create a whole bunch of shit just to do specific jobs. And imagine what that would do for an underprivileged community. I mean, the uses for something like that are enormous, but it would take an enormous amount of R&D and money, and there's no way for me to get that kind of shit.
Just as a segue, I follow. I believe his name's Theodore Gortzel. He's an AI old timer, but he was going to Ethiopia, and he was live streaming. He was saying an idea where having a robot rummage through the waste, like the trash heaps and stuff, for parts and components.
Yeah, when you think about the robot factory, what I'm talking about would create a robot just for that. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? You could put that one one system into that village, and it would do more than that. You say, here's what I needed to do. It could rummage through garbage. It could like do all sorts of shit. You know what I mean? You could have a safe and clean community in places where people don't feel safe and everything they look around them is fucked up.
So
I mean,
conceptualizing it, do you think this could fit in a bus or a van, the factory itself, or?
I think on a household level, it would be probably refrigerator sized.
Oh, okay.
On a city level, you would probably have to have something a little more significant. But this is all speculation. I have no basis other than I've written a white paper on it, but I haven't gone beyond that.
I'm thinking like module parts, kind of like, I don't know, like Legos or something. Maybe that there's a task.
You would use existing 3D printing technology.
Mm-hmm.
Would be probably the most efficient way. You get a 3D printer that the Vulcan AMI would in conjunction with FIMS would come up with the design for the bot according to what the task. You would have a system. You would have a list of tasks. You'd have to scan the environment and help it to know the environment first, and then it would need to create the design for the bots. Right. Once it has that done, it creates the bots. There's existing robot arms and 3D printers that can actually do that relatively. We know that. I mean, this is not you're not reinventing the wheel. It goes back to what I said about the Egyptians. You're using what you have to do really cool things. And they create bots like say you have some lady, she's 80 years old, her mind's fine, but her body's breaking down. She doesn't want to go to a home, but she can't keep up with a house by herself. $30,000 refrigerator size thing would get plopped down in there. You have a couple guys scan everything in her house. You know, I mean, you can get Medicare or Medicaid to help pay for it or whatever. But what you've done is you kept somebody in their home instead of like making them a burden on the state, because there's nothing wrong with their head. There's just something wrong with their body. They can't keep their house clean. They can't keep the floor clean. They can't, do certain things. So you have a bot that like designs configurations to find the jobs that it needs to do. It may be just a little thin thing with a hook on the end. I don't know. That picks something up. I'm not trying to speculate on what it would do. Just how it would come up with the configurations. It wouldn't come up with a human configuration robot. It would come up with, and as those configurations, as it got better and learned the environment more and got better because of reinforcement learning that Vulcan uses, it would get better at it. It would like retire old bots and create new configurations. The bot and the materials and all the little parts are recyclable. You would still have to have somebody come in once in a while and like change shit up and get new material in there. But essentially, you could keep people independent an extra 5 or 10 years. I mean, you could have whole communities with these type of bots, and even if assholes crushed them and did bad things to them, the cost of printing these bots and putting all that, we were talking about like $70, $80. So what? You lose more. It's not a big loss. So you can turn, and after a community got used to having it there, they start looking around, and these bots are having an impact, and the streets are clean, playgrounds are clean, and what does that do? That attracts business, that attracts community pride, that attracts a lot of things. And all of a sudden you're turning poor people into, poor voters.
Right. You're upgrading everything.
You're upgrading everything. And I'm not saying make them a police force or anything like that. I'm saying make them do the things that people really don't. There's really nobody else to do. They're not they're not taking jobs. They're doing jobs that nobody else is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, there's a difference. It's not taking the electrician's job. It's not taking the mechanic's job. It's doing a job that nobody else is currently doing. And that's a hell of a difference than replacing a worker.
Right. And that whole UBI argument too, I don't know what'll happen, but there's a lot of people that are talented and they're just not fitting in society. Like the way things are configured, like there's no guarantee of work or whatever. You got to fight to get it.
Yeah, but you have a lot of people that, I'm sorry, but you ever seen a picture of those guys sitting on the steel of the entire Empire State Building, on dirty pasty with their lunchbox? Can you imagine a bunch of Gen Xers, Gen Zers up there doing that? No. They're not the men who built
it. Well, you see that kind of thing in China now, that's for sure. Because they got to work to do what they got to do. Their laws aren't as strict as ours.
You want new jobs, create new industry.
Yeah.
Don't wait around for. Everybody wants to complain about it, but they want to complain about AI taking everything. Create new industry. The car took took the jobs from the horse and carriage. The horse and carriage guy found another thing to do. Became a mechanic.
Yeah.
Things move on, and yeah, you talk about universal basic income. I used to think that was the most communist ass shit I ever heard in my life, and but I don't know, man. It may be necessary. I think the thing that's going to really hurt people is not what we're talking about. I think it's going to be self-driven cars. You have 10 million Americans that drive for a living.
Yeah.
And, you can't put 10 million people out of work all at once and not have. That's a lot of people not being able to work meaningful jobs at once, all at once. And that's not, it's not even, I don't know what percentage of the population, is probably like 3, 4, 5% of our US population. That doesn't sound like a lot until you see the impact of that. And then it becomes a lot. It starts making universal basic income a lot more appealing as opposed to the political ramifications and social ramifications. Put 10 million people out of work all at the same time.
Right. Yeah. The way the system is now currently working, they'll support you, but you got to do some crime first, and then go through the system that way.
I'm pretty apathetic when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion that as I can do nothing to meaningfully affect anything, wearing a pin or a ribbon or angry Facebook post doesn't change anything. So I just stopped caring after a while. I do what I do, and what I do is try to improve and make my mark. And I think with my books for one, and my platforms and inventions for two, I'm hoping that's, and I hope it's a mark for the better. Because it's not that, we're talking about Vulcan and Fins, but there's also, I have another public repo called the Code Factory. It's also called ACE, Autonomous Systems Engineer. And basically what it does, this one actually does take jobs.
There you go. Well, you're Omni covering everything, yeah.
Well, no, it's a closed loop DevOps system. It creates code from plain language, like a markdown file or text, and creates it into not just code like what you would see at a cursor, but also tests, it gives me the tests, the readmes, um, Kubernetes, the Docker, everything, Pickle, you know what I mean? Everything. It gives you fully deployable, but it also tests everything to 80%, up to 80% coverage within whatever regulatory parameters, and it also uses several LLMs all at the same time. Because this one, unlike Vulcan, this is essentially a wrapper because it does use LLMs, but it uses them as a sort of a swarm. It uses them to check each other's work, but also within governed parameters, so it keeps everything very reliable. Then once it passes over to the self-fixing engineer, it monitors the system, flags any kind of bugs, and fixes low-level bugs autonomously, and flags and then suggests fixes for major bugs. And it also uses reinforcement learning, so as time goes by, it learns your system and gets better and better and better until your system never has to be fixed.
Yeah, it's what do you call it? One-stop shop, almost.
Well, I mean, there's pieces of it that exist, but because I'm the guy that I am, I think in novel terms, literally. When I thought of this, I thought I didn't stop at code generation. So, like, there's a lot of people doing code generation. Is anybody doing the other half of it?
Mm-hmm.
And there were little pieces of it, but is anybody doing all that? There wasn't, and so I did that.
What might happen is over there in China, they might get a hold of your ideas and mass market.
That's right. I released these because I ran out of personal resources to continue with them.
Oh.
And it was either let them sit and collect dust or make them public. Well, and I keep on saying they're open source, and they're not really. They have a GNU license.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use it for your own personal. When you try to make money with it, you got to get licensed to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. You know what I mean? My hope is that what I've done does inspire some other people to, follow suit and do some amazing things, and hopefully my work will contribute to that. And I mean, I have some ideas for cybersecurity and other platforms I like to build. Hopefully, I'll get the credibility I need to get that kind of thing funded with a team and get it done. I mean,
yeah.
But, that's basically that's the ultimate.
Well, now, what do you think about this OpenClaw systems? They're I'm about ready to get one myself.
They contacted me the other day.
Really?
Yeah. I have no idea what they are. They sent me a message on one of my posts. I don't even know what it is.
So it's an autonomous agent. You can install it apparently on modern hardware, but they caution against doing it to your own system in case something goes sideways. So they say put it on. They say put it on a little iMac or something like that, and let it run like that. And basically, it's an agent you can talk to, and it will self-code its way into anything you want. They got people using it to make businesses or, but the problem, the main problem is it uses a lot of tokens. So people are using off-grid AI. Yeah.
And it's not doing shit. It's directing the LLM to do shit.
Yeah, it's leveraging them. It's like a conductor in the LLM's orchestra, but it's written them, and people are trying to host their own LLMs at home or at their business, so they don't have to pay all these tokens. Because it can get wild. You go to sleep and you wake up and it's cleaned you out. Cost wise.
I was spending $40 a day developing and just token fees developing the code factory, because I was doing what's called a sprint developing. I was making changes. Then when I make the changes, it would upload to Railway, the cloud service, and then I'd run the program. And then whatever went wrong, I would fix it and do it again. But each time we're talking about
a steak dinner.
Because each time I would upload the sample README that I was using to test it with, it would create like 70, 80 files. We're talking like a whole front end, back end, it would create the whole damn thing. And if I go and I upload that to a large language model and ask it to tell me what this is, and have it say, well, it's this, this, and this. It's missing this, this, and this. And then I'd go and make for me personally, go through 70 or 80 files every time you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's just
too much.
Way too much. Especially you understand, I'm working by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm creating this on the very computer I'm talking to you on. I don't have this giant workstation. I have a Dell Precision 16 gigabyte. That's what I built everything. And that's another thing. I hope people realize you don't need, it's nice to have, but you can do some amazing shit with just commercial over-the-counter hardware and commercial regular subscriptions to different things. You use the tools, and find new ways to use the tools.
For sure, yeah.
It was an enormous, man. But Clark, those guys said something to me, and I'm God bless them, man. I hope they rule the damn world, man. But if you're getting like severe token, then what's happening is that they're using a bunch of LLM to produce something. They're not really producing it. It's more like a guide. They're telling the LLM what to do.
Yeah, and then the LLM's figuring out a way to do it at the cost of tokens.
It's running through that. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. There's certain. GitHub does it. Copilot, Cursor does it. I had an argument with an engineer one time because he didn't want to admit that Cursor was nothing but a wrapper, and I'm like, it's just a wrapper. It's a really cool wrapper. I'm not shitting on it, but it's a wrapper. People don't want to hear that something's a wrapper because it comes with some sort of you didn't invent something. Sure, you did, but you're using the LLM as the reasoning aid,
right?
And if you don't want it to be a wrapper, you need to do what I did. And I freely admit that the code factory is a wrapper. And I say that because it's a freaking wrapper. I need an LLM for a lot of the things to work.
Yep.
Vulcan's not a wrapper. It can use external LLMs as the language interface, but it doesn't need them for a language interface. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has an internal LLM to do that. It's not a wrapper. It's a cognitive architect. But yeah, you see that a lot. And what they've invented is probably a very sophisticated wrapper that is doing some pretty cool stuff. It sounds like.
Right.
And I'm not discouraging use of it. Use it. If it's working for you and you can afford tokens, man, it is. You know, I mean,
I'm up in the rafters looking down and see what people are doing, and I want to monkey see, monkey do, whatever's working. But I want to have one of these offline LLMs be the workhorse for the.
you know how to train an LLM?
Yeah, I don't know how to train one.
Neither did I. You know what I did? I trained an LLM. I built it in the LLM, trained it to where it's about the equivalent of Chat 3 or 2 or something like that. You know what I mean? But I did that on my laptop. You don't need crazy shit to do this stuff with.
Huh.
And anybody who doesn't believe me, it's a public repo. Go in there, look at it. Absolutely, you can just take the LLM that's in there. It's basic by comparison to current LLMs, but it's still an LLM.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the reason that you can air gap Vulcan. I mean, people don't know what they can do, the things that they can do with the tools that they have. I think so. That's one of the big problems. That they don't understand what's possible, and they limit themselves according to what they're told is impossible. Now, you can go way too far with that. You can also don't ever let the LLM that you're using become a yes man, and realize your own limitations. I realized mine. I realized my own limitations. That's one of the reasons. Even if I hadn't made my repos public, I'd almost come to the point to where I was going to have to. You know what I'm saying? Like I was at the end of my expertise in any kind of practical way that I was needing outside help. And if you don't know what the limits are, go out find out what they are. You know what I mean? I'm happy to give anybody instruction on how to do it with common tools. I'll teach you how to use a hammer if that's what it takes. It's not like I'm some super famous guy that won't respond to emails.
Right. Well, the thing that initially struck me, I was hanging out on Reddit. I have a couple of groups I watch and stuff. I'm not a big poster or anything, but when I see something that has promise, I like to feed it into Google Gemini or Grok.
Yeah.
And see what they say. And a lot of times they have more insight than I could ever hope for. And I was like, there must be something to this. This LLM's getting excited. But
that's one thing. It's not an LLM, though. It's that's one thing that a lot of people misunderstand about Vulcan. It's a hybrid. It uses large language models as the language interface. If they'd have had that technology back in 2010, AI would be different in so many ways than it is now. Actually, I think it would have had to come out a little earlier because as Transformers solved so many problems that they've been having, the problems that accumulated. By the time they came out with Transformer technology, and it the circus solved them all at once, instantly, and just got exponentially better.
For sure.
But if it came out, say, in the late 90s, I think AI would be it's world changing now, but I think it would have been a better change. Maybe I think that's the way to put it. It would have been when you heard something from AI, you could count on it. it wouldn't give you what you wanted to hear. It would give you the facts. It would give you, when it did give you unreliable facts, it would give you how reliable it is and how unreliable it is. You know, hey, Angelina Jolie just adopted the country of Africa or some crazy shit like that. Now, this is not very reliable, but this is a report.
Yeah.
Somebody said that. Michael. Yes.
I mean, it's got a little bit of truth in there somewhere, but yeah.
Is there anything else you want to ask me, or?
Well, in a nutshell, what I mean, if you were trying to get people interested in stuff, I mean, you gave me the big wide scope of everything, but you're saying that have them install this Vulcan, and then I mean, at that point they would explore the capabilities, or do you have a recommended use?
You want to learn about Vulcan. I mean, if you wanted to upload it into, what you're gonna see is that it'll show you a screen. You can ask some questions. There's gonna be some lag. It's gonna be a little long because I was working when I ran out of resources. I was working on the interface.
Mm-hmm.
All the architecture is there. You can upload it. It's completely reproducible. It's completely deployable. But if you want to really use it, you're gonna have to work on the damn thing. So, I wish I would have had more time to keep working on it. But I don't see what that would have done. I kind of ran out of expertise. There were it wasn't a problem of what I knew would work and what wouldn't work. It was how to organize it and integrate it and then make it flow in the way it needed to. It was never about anything else. The technology works. You can, if you're problem is you got to be a pretty high level guy to understand it, and if you're not a high level guy to understand it, you're gonna have to take a lot of time learning it through using an AI to examine certain files. Super time consuming considering the breadth and scope. You guys got to understand, Vulcan isn't just what I just described to you. It's also, there's the side of it's called graphics IR, which is basically it communicates through a non-human intelligible graphic system. And you understand AI communicates best through 3 and 4D graph that's completely unflattenable. You can't, it's not the syntax language. So, and it's also, there's also, you have the persistent memory system and the, which is literally a persistent memory. And you have, let's see what else. There's all sorts of crazy shit that there's the semantic and the reasoning system. You also have this, it has this thing where it chooses the type of reasoning whether it needs, so it doesn't have a lot of clog, doesn't hit everything at once. So it needs symbolic reasoning. It defines that. It chooses one or several types of reasoning for a specific problem. There's a lot to it. I mean, I'm talking about, mean, just without Vulcan alone is 200 something thousand. The Vulcan side of that repo is over 250,000 lines of code, and then there's the other side, which is another 500,000 lines of code, doing all sorts of crazy shit. For just your layman to go through that, they have to be pretty determined and sort of believe in what they're looking at, think that they can get something out of it. And I can't lie and say that it's just something you can pick up and understand. You said in your video, this massive code. To think you can just pick it up and just learn it is, unless you're some sort of next level god tier genius, that you're not going to.
I think the AIs were trying to infer you got something that's unique there, and they were saying this has to be checked out because there's something there that's not. It's not a known.
What I'm doing is in research labs right now, and I think what it said is actually true. This is a practical application of what's being researched. The problem is, I think that not enough research dollars are going into it, and people aren't willing to ship unless things are perfect out of these labs because they have bosses and they can't do it. I have nobody telling me what I can and can't ship, so I ship this thing. I put it out there. There's some issues with it. There's some things that need fixing, but it's there. And you can deploy it onto your cloud service. It'll deploy. Work with it. Screw with it. Learn from it. Whatever you want to do, but it's there. And for me, it's proof that my ideas work.
For sure, yeah. It's I've researched a lot of guys that put out something phenomenal, and then they're finally appreciated 30 years later. I hope it's not something like that.
I'll be dead.
Yeah,
so,
it's
what happens before that.
Right. I mean, what?
I'm quick to throw. 30 years later, I'll be if I live that long, I'll be in my 80s. So let's shoot for a little sooner.
I'm trying to get the word out. I guess my YouTube channel's got 4,000 subscribers, but I think a lot of them are ghosting me or something.
The video you did on my thing got 200 likes, man, and 200 views.
Yeah, it has some keywords people are looking for, and
well, are you gonna? I don't know if you're gonna do this whole. But we've been at it for a couple hours now. Are you gonna edit this down into
what I'm kind of like grab and go. So I'll put all this up. Well, it's live streaming now, so it'll be in the entirety. But what I'll do, YouTube will transcribe everything. It'll become a transcript, and then I can get in a couple AIs to check out the transcript and figure out.
Look the key whatever's and put them as clips. That would probably be the wise thing.
Yeah, and
so nobody's gonna sit through 2 hours of me talking. I mean, just. I love Sam Harris about an hour into it. I'm like, all right, Sam, you done.
There's a lot.
Not nearly as clever as Sam Harris.
There's a lot of folks that'll just put on a podcast and they gotta do yard work or wash the dishes. They just want people talking so they can get their mind off of what they're doing.
Yeah, well, as I slowly drink Jack Daniels, so.
Yeah. No, what I think I'll do is I'll put your contact information too there, and when people,
you got the repo info.
I'll get a hold of it if it's easy to find. I'll get it in there, make it easy for people, and
I would appreciate that. Because I'm getting like as I've had this out, I've been getting more and more attention from people I just contact. I just had to call my business partners. I didn't call them. I texted them. I said, "Look, man, every day I'm getting one or two. It's starting to come in. People wanting to, hey, I want to collaborate, or hey, I want this, or hey, I want that." Mostly it's hobbyists. But I'm like, we shouldn't devalue these hobbyists.
Right.
We need their resources that we could really utilize to do some good stuff, and we need to have a way to sort of curate the bullshitters from the people who are really interested in making a contribution, because they got kind of. Hey, do you mind that? I have to say a couple things that I really don't want on the.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to end the live stream, we can.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. All right. So if people want to get a hold of you, I'll put your info in the contact details. Let me. So I got two streams going. One a primary and then a backup here. Let me cut them. Okay, end stream. I'm in this